Chris, can you hear me? You'll have to put it in the chat because I've got the microphone turned off. Everyone nod yes if you can hear me over there. Oh, thank you. Okay, I saw some of you nodding yes. Thank you. Okay, so we'll get started at 6:30, so in a few minutes. Oh, there's Scott. I'll be right back. So we think Naeem is still coming, right? Okay. Come on up, Kyle. Grab a seat. We'll move this out of the way. Kyle, this is Greg. This is Juan. This is Kyle. Okay. Let's see. 6:28. I can see everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, so Kyle was one of my students. Like years ago, right? You were one of my first students when I first started teaching. So I'm so excited. So it works. It actually works. Okay, you guys can hear me still? Okay. So we'll start at 6:30 sharp. So just so everybody knows, we're actually doing something just a tiny bit different because Scottsdale Community College is also listening on the live stream with us, and Brian Darby is in the live stream, is in Scottsdale, and many of you met Brian when he was here before. So we're piloting being able to kind of spread this across a couple different campuses. So bear with us if we have a few little snafus, but Corrine is going to be monitoring the chat for that. And so they may have some questions for us. And if any of you have questions, just raise your hand. I can actually bring the mic to you so they can hear. And then same goes with you three, right? Always, you don't have to put your neck, just, talk into it. Okay, so again, for those of you that don't know me, which I think everyone knows me now because you've all been here, I'm Andrea, and I'm the program director for the A+, and then the networking. And each month, we're trying to bring in a couple of different speakers and do different topics. So today, we're going to be talking about network operations, really, as it relates to the foundation of IT, okay? So I'm going to have each of you just introduce yourself, okay? But before we do that, I want to just share one more thing. I want to talk about next month's speaking event, why I'm thinking about it. Next month's speaking event is called Converged Security. So it's going to be about a lot of different security aspects of IT. So not just security of the network, not just cybersecurity, but even beyond that, like physical security. What kind of, is there something in the cloud? What are cameras doing? What type of presence do you need in the way of security personnel? So again, it's called converged security because it's going to be encompassing a large or like a broad range of things as security goes. Okay. All right. So Kyle, let's just introduce yourself, where you work, and like what you do. Your basics.
My name's Kyle, and I've been in IT for about 6.5 years now. And like Andrew said, I went from construction, and now I work in IT. And right now, I work for IT for Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, nice.
So, and I work the best. I work third shift.
Oh, in the evening.
So I work 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Do you like it?
I love it.
Okay, that's
It's
good.
the best.
Yeah, nice, and that's something new too, because we haven't had anybody that works that shift, so I think that adds some questions. Okay, and then we have Juan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Juan, and I am a data center technician at Microsoft, and been doing that for about 3 years now. Previous to that, I was in construction as well, structured cabling, doing a lot of just pulling fiber, Cat6 at Amazon warehouses and hospitals. So that was a little bit fun. But yeah, currently just working on servers, working with the infrastructure, fiber, and switches. So yeah, very fun job.
Nice, thank you.
Hi, I think most of you know me. I was here last week. My name is Greg Davis. I work in the Network Operations Center for a contract for Department of Homeland Security. So basically, kind of what our topic is tonight, network operations, is a really good topic to get into. So hope we have a good discussion.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the first question, and I've got a list of questions. So we're gonna try to follow a little bit more of a format too, and so. You said you were in construction, and you were in construction, and you were military. So what I want to know is what made you think of going into IT? Like, what caused you to change? Because like if you're like, oh, I'm going to change jobs, why did you pick IT?
It was almost, I hate to say this, but it was almost spite for the construction company I was working at. I had a question. I was working inside the office there, and I was doing stuff, and I said, hey, I have a question about this new software you're using. And she told me, I can't talk to you right now. The IT guy's here, and I am paying him $75 an hour, so you are second. And I said, you know what? I want to be that guy. So that day, I signed up, and then a week later, I was taking classes with Andrea.
Can I just share something, and then maybe you can add to this too. When Kyle first started taking classes, he was nervous.
Like right
And-
now.
Oh, yeah, nervous, and I'm just correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth. You doubted yourself,
I did.
right? Like a lot, and like a lot of students. And I'm not talking in the mic, so they can't hear me. So Kyle doubted himself a lot, and like every day, Leslie, who is one of our instructors now, like sometimes it would just be like talking through it, like, no, you can do it. Like it's the next day. So it's just like one day at a time. And so I know a lot of you face that type of concern or doubt, and questioning your confidence. And it's doable. This is a learnable skill. And so, and I think Kyle's a perfect example of that. And you like your job, right?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and really I always saw that because Kyle was in lab all the time. Like literally, so I'm like, of course this, man's gonna be successful. He's in lab all the time, like doing homework, learning, and working with other people in the class, like just a total team player. There was no doubt in my mind. So again, I know that a lot of you have some doubt and some concern. You have to sometimes just keep pushing through that, right? You just have to keep pushing through that. Hi, Naeem.
Hi, Andrea. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, y'all.
So good
Sorry.
to see you. And you have a haircut.
Yes. So last time y'all saw me, I had some hair. I had to change that, look a little little more professional for y'all. So yeah, I'm Naeem. Sorry, I'm late. My voice might be a little shaky. I was speed walking, but I'm a data center technician at Microsoft, and I'm also a scholar at Estrella, entering my last semester. And I'm happy to be here with y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to speak with y'all.
Thank you for bringing Juan.
Yeah. Oh, Juan.
What's funny is the
Yeah.
first time we meet.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. So Juan came on board to Microsoft, but he's on a different team than I am. So we sent out an email, Andy, looking for people to speak with us, and Juan volunteered, and he was here before me, which is great for him. But I haven't gotten the chance to meet him. So it's nice to meet you, Juan. I'm Naeem. Yeah, this is awesome.
So the question that we're answering, Naeem, and I'm going to go to Juan next, is like, so Kyle and Naeem both. Kyle and Juan both said that they were in construction. So my question is, what caused you to go into IT? Like when you were thinking about like, oh, I'm going to change jobs, why was it IT? So I'm going to come to you and then we'll go to Greg and then we'll come back to you.
So overall, I always had an interest like for technology. So I would always like get in trouble at home because I would like undo my laptop and mess with the motherboard, and I'm pretty sure I bricked it at one point, and yeah, let's just say it was not fun. But I did small jobs like small tech support at call centers and stuff like that. Eventually, I got into the construction side and doing just pulling fiber, Cat 6, and after a while, yeah, it's fun. Just very tiring, especially when the warehouse is a oven of its own and being on scissor lifts all day on heights. But I got a call from a recruiter at one point, and they saw that I had a technical experience both in the tech support as well as fiber experience, just terminating. And that kind of opened the doors when that recruiter reached out to me, and that's when I started as a contractor with a third-party company at Microsoft. And from there is where I transitioned out to work for Uber's data center as well. And after Uber is when I proceeded to Google, and I was at Google for 1 year and about 3 months, year and a half. Got to travel to Mexico and got to deploy data centers down in Mexico as well, work on their servers. And eventually I got an offer with Microsoft that was much closer to home. No more driving an hour each way, hour 20. So definitely took the opportunity, and now I'm happily at Microsoft. So yeah, it's been an awesome experience with the team.
Just make a little note to ask a question later.
Okay, so my first introduction to IT was a long, long time ago when I was in high school, and I went to this community group, and this is when personal computers were first coming online, and I see this dazzling box in front of me like a computer, so I wanted to know a lot about that. So I really didn't pursue anything through high school or college, but as I got into the military, I started to, we went from typewriters to electric typewriters to terminals, and I grew more interest, and there was a lot of personnel there that were getting into basic programming, computer science. So I started off my career, my studies in computer science, and I pursued that. As it moved on, I started to get more into networking, and I got my first networking job, is what I introduced you tonight, is working for the Department of Homeland Security on a contract. And that was my first step into it. I went completely from doing my career, which was air traffic control, into computer science. It was kind of a follow-up. I knew I wanted to do something different. I knew it was challenging. I saw a lot of opportunity there. And as Andrew was talking about with Kyle, is you're making this complete jump. But diligence, as we keep foot stumping, that is pursuit, pursuit, pursuit. This is a learnable skill, as we will hear throughout the night. It is definitely challenging, but if you put the time into it, it definitely brings the rewards.
And then, Naeem, I know you've told us before, but do you have anything to add about how you came into IT?
Yeah. So for those I haven't met before, I'm relatively new to IT as well. This is my first job in IT. I come from a background of science. When I first went to college, I was a bio major, chem minor. I really enjoy science, but my time apart from college kind of led me to learn some things about myself, and found out that IT is something that would really interest me. As I'm sure a lot of you grow up as a gamer, and you're like, whoa, that would be cool. Maybe be able to pivot into playing some games. So that's why I went into it personally. And then I ended up as a data center tech, and it's all been pretty cool so far. I've gotten a lot of skills, a lot of hands-on and knowledge that I can carry to any other job. So there's one thing I did want to touch on, though, about maybe some imposter syndrome maybe feeling like you aren't ready for the job. I saw a post, I can't remember verbatim, I wish I could, it was good. But it was something about everybody starting somewhere and people have to learn. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to ride a bike for the first time. And it's like you might feel like, wow, I'll never be able to do this. This is almost impossible. But you have to learn. And that's where everybody starts at, no matter where they are in life. They started somewhere, likely the same spot that we're starting at. So as Greg was saying, diligence is what keeps you there. Keep going, no matter how many times you fail, you get up stronger and you learn more. So please don't let any feelings of not belonging ever stray you from your goal and your passion. Because I'm sure at the end of the day, we'll all make it to where we want to be. So just wanted to share that.
There is something I would love to add to that.
Please, yes, of course.
One thing I did realize overall in my career is that I met a lot of people that have really they stop kind of their career path with the fear of the requisites or what a job might ask you, whether it's a degree or experience. And I've met so many people that are very talented, and that is their one obstacle. And the way I think about it is all those job requisites you see, I just see them as suggestions. And the reason I say that is because that's one of the main things that will stop many people from even applying to a job. And as many texts I know as what's the worst that will happen? They will say no. But aside from that, you're gaining a lot of experience from the interview process. You're kind of gathering all this information and the questions that they will ask you down the line, and kind of what kind of topics you could study on top of. Because I know when I first applied to Google, I saw all those requisites and a degree and all this stuff, and I'm all like, I don't have half of this. And I was maybe in the industry for like 1 year, but it definitely made a difference going through the interview process. It was like 3 one-hour interviews, and every single question I got to experience, I tried building a relationship and kind of treating our interview like a casual conversation, not necessarily keeping it like very strict question answer. Try and reach out to them and say, hey, how's your day? How did you get into this? And kind of expand from there, and it will impact your interviews as well as the positions that you're trying to apply to. So do not let those like requisites and overall like descriptions kind of like scare you. Apply if you really do believe that you will have a chance, and if not, use that interview to kind of just build upon your skills and study down the line.
I'll add to that too. So what you're saying is like, I would see those. I would say, you need this, you need this. And I was like, you know what? There's 7 of them. I got 2. That's good enough. And I would send it out. Like, I've had companies, I had applied for them so many times that they'd actually send me letters back to ask me to stop. But like one place was like, you cannot apply for 3 years. Yeah. But you know what? I did it, and same thing as theirs. Every time I'm in an interview, and what I would do is I do the same thing. I would try to find common ground, because it's always 4 to 5 people that you're talking to. And I'll tell you one good thing is when they say, hey, what would you like to do here? You don't ever say, I want that guy's job. Because,
Do that?
yeah. I was at one place and it was their head IT administrator. And like, what would you like to do? I was like, I want your job. What I should have said was, I want to get in here and learn, and sometimes my path of what I want to be changes when I get here, because I might have a different area of expertise that might help. So don't. And then, but like my last interview with Maricopa County Sheriff's is one of the guys was wearing a Red Sox shirt, and I'm a Red Sox fan as well. And I was like, how about them Sox? And oh man, they suck this season, And that's where I started going with it all. And another thing is what I did is applying before I had a degree or before I had experience. So every job interview would be like, what is a difficult IT thing that you came across, and what was your and how did you fix it, or how did you overcome it? And before, I hadn't really experienced. My only experience in here was messing up in here, and messing up my assignments or your end of the skills project. Yes, just like I sat in the back for one of the skills projects for probably hours and hours and hours and hours, and I kept messing it up. I kept having to start over. I couldn't figure it. Eventually, it was a static route. And I used that as this is a problem that I had that I fixed, and this is how I figured it out, and this is what I did to do it. Because a lot of times what these interviews are doing, they want to know what you know, but they want to know if you can be part of their team, if you're likable, if you have the same, joking manner, or you got this, you're gonna fit in. So that's what saying I want your job is not a fitting in kind of answer. But I was being honest.
Yeah, and they just didn't maybe take it the right way.
No, they didn't take it the right way at all. Because I knew it was over then. Because the IT guy, he got up and he turned around and he took a phone call, and the other guys are kind of looking at me, and I was like, "All right, you guys, have a good day. It was really nice talking to you. Good luck on them hiring." And then like MCSO, I was doing more of a joking, casual thing. So they're like, "All right, we got a couple more people to interview," and I was like, "All right, we'll just keep my folder on top, keep my resume on top, because I know you guys are going to be calling me back in 2 weeks." So.
Yeah, same confidence, different.
Yes,
Yeah.
I learned from it.
Yeah.
And if you ever try to get some in the public sector, 2 weeks actually means like 4 months.
Yeah.
So anybody that's has to try to get a job in the public sector, that they're not in a hurry
Yeah.
for anything.
So I want to just say something about what Kyle said. So a lot of you students don't have experience, right? And I think we've talked about it before, definitely in my class, is how you can change your classroom experience into something that can benefit you. And when Kyle was a student, I didn't do this as much, but now, like, I've even told students, like, take a picture of your rack, so that you could demonstrate it in a portfolio, or if you build out an an E portfolio, like, think about the ways that you're going to be able to communicate to an employer about the things that you are doing in class to demonstrate that you do have experience, even though you haven't worked in a data center, or you haven't been a help desk, you haven't been on the job. So, and I'll tell a funny story. So I was having a job interview, and I had to set up a small network, and the network wasn't working. And my students will really get a kick out of this. And I couldn't I was nervous. I was really nervous. And they're like, "Well, you're just missing the doorway. You're just missing the door." And I was like, "What does that mean? I'm missing the door?" So do you know what I was missing? What, Nick? The default gateway. Okay, so for those of you that have me as an instructor, how hard am I on the default gateway? Why? Because it almost cost me a job. Because I was just so nervous, and I hadn't set the default gateway on the end device, one end device. So the pings weren't working. And but I had a really good rapport with that interview team, so they wanted to help me. I don't think that would have happened with a different candidate, but because I had been like again, I was just a good candidate, I had a good rapport, and they're like, "Well, it's like if you got to get out the door," like they were giving me hints until finally I was like, "Okay, I got it." Ping, and they're like, "You're hired." Okay, but it was just nerves, so I just want to say that rapport, it just means, right, it's so funny now. And I actually think there were like 7 people in the room watching me build this network. And right? I mean, there were only a couple people that were actually networking people. It was like an HR person and who knows what else, I don't know what they were. So they didn't even know, but that networking person helped me, because they knew I knew what a default gateway was. But
I did that in an interview too, though. With not quite that bad, but like they were asking me what stuff was, and they were like, "What is a Pinkman PNG?" And I was like, "What command is that?" And I was like, "The dude from Breaking Bad." I was like, "Is that a command?" And I was like, "I know there's a lot of," and I was all nervous, and I was like, so I'm like racking my brain. I keep going, "What is it again? What is it again?" And I'm like, "Oh no. No. And I even made a joke, "Oh, I'll research it." And I was like, "Why are they asking me about the guy from Breaking Bad?" But I was so nervous, I wasn't even like putting 2 to 2 together.
Right. Okay, then, Greg, did you have anything to add to that? Okay. Can I go, oh, yeah, here.
This is kind of related to like the interview process and, you know, kind of like moving up. I don't want to say the ladder, but because it's based like just getting in, it's like I see most of you have done contract work or contracts to get like into a company or your foot in the door into a company. I've had a lot of like contracts kind of the same way, but a lot of the time, at least, I don't know if I've been unlucky or what, but what can you do outside of just showing you want to improve and like displaying your skills, and by the time your 6 months or however long your contract is up, they either just want to kind of like string you along, like, oh, we're going to renew your contract, but I'd like, what if you're in a position where if you need like, let's say benefits or something from, I don't know, the company or the what, like your contract provider, because it's usually a middleman, right? Like there's a middleman between it. The benefits they provide don't meet what you need or are just too expensive to do on your own. Is there anything you can do to like be like, hey, you should hire me full time, if that makes sense? But
Yeah, I'll jump on this one.
Can I segue something onto that? So, Kyle and I were talking about it earlier. So let's answer that question. But also after that, I would like to talk about the benefits. What kind of benefits do you have at your job, and how meaningful is that? Like, how has that changed things, right? Yeah. So let's answer the contract company, because I even wrote it down because I knew that is, and it's a really common way. Yes. It's a lot of times you have to start out in a contract job, right, and then get hired. So okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The way that I started, I had an internship with Microsoft before I came on board. My biggest thing was helping as many people as I could. Whenever I saw anybody asking for help, any issue, I was just there to make sure they have what they need or remove any blockers. But I think all in all, what I'm trying to get at is making everyone like you. And I know that seems like maybe it's a people-pleasing trait, but the reality is the more people that know you, the more people that like you, from you going out of your way to be an asset to the team, they want to bring you on board. The more of an asset you are to the team, the less they want to let you walk. So in a contract role where your time is limited, it's important to make as big of an impact to your team and to the people around you as possible, in my opinion, of how to transition from contract to full-time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
My first experience overall when I started as a contractor at Microsoft, there with CT, I recall that the first thing, it wasn't my first day even yet, and the only thing in my mind was, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna try and associate myself with as many Microsoft FTEs as I can, and try and just form a relationship, build that rapport with them. And that's exactly what I did. Of course, the main thing as a contract worker is very important to do your job, 100%. That is a big impact. But always taking into consideration that is not just the job itself. Your upper management will always see you and be like, okay, you're doing what's on the job description, great. But building that rapport and kind of going out of your way to meeting other teams and other managers and kind of showing them your interest towards being a full-time employee is what makes the impact. Because I remember when I left Microsoft for Uber, I already had about 3, 4, 5 texts on my phone that, hey, how you doing? I'm having a grill, let's come on out, and stuff like that. And even down the line, once I got to work for Google and I was in Mexico, it was interesting because I would just go outside, and at the time I smoked, but not anymore. But I would have a cigarette, and everybody would come, oh, do you have a lighter? Do you have a cigarette? Who are you? Oh, my name is Juan. I'm with this person, and who are you? I'm the director, and oh, save my number. So very small conversations like that.
it's just a small question, I don't think you can mind. But what if it's not face-to-face? What if it's remote, where you don't really have like true connections with people?
Oh, yeah.
Just repeat the question, Juan, so they can hear it.
Yeah, so the question was, what if it's not an in-person, face-to-face role, but remote? I got to experience a lot when developing relationships overseas. I was first working, of course, here in Phoenix and trying to build a relationship with our vendors over in Mexico. I didn't have the experience to have that face-to-face conversation, but during our meetings, I would basically not just cover our overall topics for our deployments, but as well reach out to them and be like, hey, can we schedule a one-on-one? That is something that is huge for me and has really improved my career. Just reaching out to somebody and be like, hey, do you mind if we could have a quick one-on-one, a 15, 30-minute talk, just to kind of pick your brain and learn about your day-to-day activities and kind of get to know you better. So even on a remote opportunity like that, kind of just reaching out and having those one-on-ones will make a huge impact on getting to meet new people and growing your opportunities in your career.
Greg, do you have anything to add about being a contractor?
So my experience as a contractor was kind of I'm going to say it was a blessing because I went directly into a contract. It wasn't a short-term contract. But what Juan was saying, I went from a remote, on-site perspective into remote. And I like what he said is making that personal contact. Even though I'm remote, I work from a customer-based type of situation. So I get to interact with the technical people that are dealing with the routers and switches. So when I was listening to the panel talk, I was thinking like, doing your job and don't go in looking for shortcuts. There's protocols and different things to show that stands out. Making sure that you do that work very detailed, that's going to stand out too. There is a team lead that is on that site, I believe, where you're working. They're going to be able to speak to that work, have a conversations, like he said, one-on-one, make yourself known. But I definitely, if you get any time to face with the customer side of it, I've got a lot of feedback when I was initially into my job of like, hey, feedback to my teams and different people that I work with. And even if you don't get that I believe good customer service is always going to set a good foundation for you because IT is big, but it's small, and people get to know you from the work that you do and how well you do it, and it goes around. So I think as you keep digging into it, that diligence and making that connection, and you'll keep hearing me saying team, 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 because it is not one person that makes an enterprise works. It's all of us.
Wish someone would realize that, though.
Yeah.
I
So
would-
go ahead and talk about, well, wait, let's answer.
Yeah,
do you
sorry,
have
sorry.
anything
I would
to
like
add?
to say when he says
You're
that,
right, I want you to talk.
when he does say that the IT world is small, it is really small. Because even in the data center world, when I was in contract with Uber, I met a lot of our cabling vendors, and out of the blue, I go on to Google, and who do I get to see? Those same cabling vendors assisting another client. Then I come to Microsoft, and I get to meet the exact same cabling vendors that are assisting with those projects. And these are vendors that I was also building relationships with. Was I in the cabling side? No, but just building that relationship with your vendors as well makes a huge impact because I know if I needed something that, hey, we need to rack stack 200 switches or we need to run all these connections, I knew who to contact to help me with that. So kind of seeing them from all these different companies, from Uber to Google to Microsoft, is amazing. Just being able to still be in touch with those vendors.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the the extra benefits that working for your company brings you, right? So you can start, Kyle.
You wanna start?
So like medical, dental, and then is there any school benefits? Like what kind of benefits over and above?
So, like I
What
said,
kind of benefits over and above?
So like I said, I work for Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. So the pay is awesome. I'm just joking. It's not. It's a public sector. It's good, but I get tuition reimbursement
Okay.
for as long as it's in. So if I wanted to come back, say I wanted to go to ASU or I wanted to come back here, they'll reimburse you for it as long as you're progressing in your field that you're there. They'll do it. And medical is a big thing for me because I have a family. So my last company I worked for 5 years, I was paying it was like $1,500 a month for insurance, and that was the only benefit that I got. But now I have really awesome insurance now, medical, dental, vision, all of it. Like the county, they do. I get 2 weeks paid vacation a year, all the holidays. Tons and tons of sick time that I never use. I don't go on vacation. That's no fun. But all like discounts everywhere, discounts on my phone, like all that stuff adds up because of. That's where that pay makes up for it, because I'm saving so much on health insurance and all that, that lower pay, it really and truly, it's benefits are worth its weight in gold to me.
Especially once you have a family, right?
Yeah, and a retirement. So they once once for the sheriff's office, once you're there, it's automatic. There is no yes, I want to be in it. No, I don't want to be in it. And so after 20 years, you max out and you can take it and retire from them. And having a retirement is huge because a lot of private sector companies don't offer that kind of thing, especially in IT, because for some reason, IT is where a lot of companies like to shortcut on things. They don't want to spend the extra money and they don't want to do that. So that's what I love the public sector for, is just the benefits itself, because it's just there's not many places out there that's going to beat it.
Agreed.
So
Yeah, as an instructor, right, working for Maricopa Community College, it's kind of the same thing. So,
yeah, so that was one of my, so my first IT job was, I just need to get out of where I work, and this place is going to give me my experience, and this place is, no matter how horrible it was, this place is going to get me to move on to something better. And that's all I looked at that first jump was, this is going to make it better for me. And it finally did.
good. Naeem?
Yeah, so honestly, since I've thought about this a lot, this question about the benefits, my best answer is that since coming on board, I haven't had pretty much any worry in life when it comes to health insurance, medical, dental, vision, nothing of the sort. I'm comfortable now to the point where nothing outside of health reasons seems like a big deal to me. Microsoft does a good job. We get full benefits. We don't have to pay anything for them. Full health, full dental, vision. We get about $1,500 every year for hobby building, things like maybe if you want to buy a piano and start a new piano hobby. Yeah, you get reimbursed if you want to go buy a piano. Yeah, I use mine on the cello. But yeah, we get that. What else do we get? We get mental health care, financial care. The 401k is matched, I believe, up to 50% of any dollar you put in there. So you put $1,000, you get $500 matched to that. We have an ESPP plan, so you get a 10% discount on stocks. All in all, the benefit package is amazing. If I would say, maybe this is a biased opinion, but I think we have the best benefits of a lot of companies in the world.
I would agree with, I mean, I've never heard of that many benefits, so that's good.
It's insane, yeah.
Yeah.
Even things you don't think about, things you probably don't even plan to use, they're there.
Like, go have a balanced life and play piano? Are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
They encourage that, and that's the best part about it, yes.
Here.
Oh, sorry, y'all. Let's keep going.
So just in my personal situation, benefits are kind of a big deal for me. What if you do finally get over that hurdle of, contract or full-time employee, but the company doesn't provide, I don't want to say the correct benefits, but benefits that you need covered? Do you just have to make that hard decision? I like working here, but I just gotta try to find something else, or?
Yeah, and I'll let the other guys speak to that as well, but in my opinion, if you know what you want, you have to go somewhere that gets you what you want.
I
Rather,
agree.
if that's specific experience or specific benefits, whatever it is, you have to go after what you want. And you're right, it is a hard decision, but when you look at your future and you look at your long term, you got to do what you got to do in order to get what you want. So it's nice to know what you want, and you shouldn't stop pursuing that for anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I would say. The same thing is, I always say this one thing. I was looking for a job when I found this one. So just aim for those jobs that have that better benefits and just kind of work to it. Because all you're doing is getting experience, and all you're doing is you have an end goal. It's to have benefits of A, B, and C. And I would just keep going and keep trying. And
So, Greg, will you, do you have the same benefits as Naeem?
Yes and no.
Oh,
So we do have the same benefits in that aspect, but I do want to add something on top of when it comes to if you don't find something that is not included. and I had this conversation with our director actually yesterday, or the day before. Always reach out to HR and upper management, because even myself, I ended up using a ton of sick time. And he's all like, "Hey, why didn't you just reach out to HR? They had other options that would have prevented you from utilizing your PTO or your sick time." So even reaching out and speaking with HR, they will definitely look into other options that are included that could benefit you or in some way kind of work with you, so that if you are a great candidate, they could still keep you in and kind of work with you to accomplish the benefits that you want. I, of course, share all the same benefits as Naeem. And I do have to say every company is different, because even like Google and Microsoft share pretty much the same benefits when it comes to health coverage and days off and all that fun stuff. I know even with stocks, like with Google, they would vest every month. Some guys loved selling them the same month and pay for their Benz or Mercedes payment. Other guys were more traditional and just saved it up for their retirement. But yeah, it's one of those things where you definitely, if you don't reach out, you won't have an answer. So reach out to HR or even a director or upper management if you have the means to get to them, and kind of explain your situation. Because in IT, I have learned that once you are a full-time employee, they really try and hold on to their employees in a way that if you are a very valuable asset, they're not just going to let you go just because. So definitely reach out and kind of just let them know what your current living situation is like, and 9 times out of 10, in my personal experience, they will definitely work with you.
Well, the company I work for is, I think, more of the traditional, and not to say what Microsoft has isn't the best to go for, but it's more of a traditional. I'll give you a flip side of it, because here is just the traditional things. You got the medical, the dental, 401ks, and the matching is pretty much like that. But when I was listening to the panel talk about it, I have a daughter, she's in auditing in IT. And early in my IT career, she talked about, she started out working with, I think, American Express there a couple of years and then moved on. And I'm like, moving on? What is this moving on thing? Because I'm like 26 years in the military, you just stay there. It's a different lay of the land now. I like what Naeem said, is like your career is a path that you have to look forward out and look at it. And your benefits. You're going to make sure that you make that decision where you change how long you're going to stay at a job or whatever. It could be a negative impact, but also I think it's a growing, as you move in career, IT is growing. Different things could be at the company that you're at right now that meets the needs that you need, but IT automation, we're getting into more automation, more programming. So as your longevity of your career moves out, that's also how you're going to look at what I think, to add on to what the panel is saying about what you're looking at for your benefits. Again, you have a family, you're single, or whatever that composite may be, you have to look at that also. So every company's got, what you need, but as you move on, I think you're going to be able to see what that model makes out for you, because as you see on the panel, there's just many different varieties here. And to say this is where every company is going to be for you, it's not that way. It's a very dynamic process.
Okay, I want to ask something about kind of the day-to-day ins and outs. I want to know about the different types of software tools that you're using on a regular basis. So not just for your actual job, like recording trouble tickets or reporting out, but even like interactions with customers on the HR side, maybe you're having to put in for time off. Like, I want you to just think about how flexible do you have to be and adaptable do you have to be to learn the things that are coming out to do your job? Am I making sense? Yes. Is that a good, okay.
Yes. Yeah, let's
So I definitely, that question is, just in the day-to-day, there's many different platforms. You're going to come in with your, terminals that you use to get into your software, to your devices. But as Andrew was talking about, you have the HR. We've got a totally different mail to talk to HR. That's totally different outside of what I deal with and work to work. But Teams is a collaboration tool that we use, and so we use that to talk with other members and customers and different things like that. We also use different softwares, and Avaya software that I use to deal with troubleshooting and management. So the things that you learn from a Cisco side is definitely that you're going to get experience in the academy. But when you get into network operations center where I am, we have network monitoring tools that we deal with that are different from Cisco to different from Avaya to different things that we have for different thermostats or different things in the network. And then there's also ticketing, as Andrea was talking about, with that we have Snow was the application that we use for our ticketing. And so that ticketing is a process that we use to document what I do day to day. I work in wireless deployment, so I start out a deployment, I deal with what I did, the configurations on the ticket, I deal with that configurations that I also for a project management. So I also deal with a project, software does with a project management change. So I had to put that change in because I can't just go in and say, hey, I'm going to take down this network today, do this, this, and this. No, I have to manage that through that. So that's another software which I have to kind of work with another team. So the whole theme that you can get here is a lot of different softwares on the personal level, dealing with my time card that I have to deal with putting in for time off, also dealing with talking with HR, which the company is back in Virginia. I'm here remotely in Arizona. So it's a lot of different personal softwares, emails, collaboration softwares that you're going to do. And they change every now and then. So just when you get used to one, they change. So it's a very a prominent skill that you adapt to and learn how to do in your career. So definitely get ready for it. There's always a little bit of change.
We use a little bit of everything. Ticketing wise, of course, Microsoft has their own ticketing system. But in my previous roles, we've used ServiceNow for our day-to-day activities, and anything that was higher than that, like projects that were being seeked by direct managers, they would utilize something like Jira. And a lot of times your overall like time tracking could sometimes be like ADP or something personal that the company has developed themselves. So the tools will always change. And especially with a lot of AI just growing at the rate that it is, you will see a lot of tools coming out, and the company will normally have like, hey, we have this required training, please take it. And one of those things that you have to be on top of, because if you don't do your trainings, it's not like an optional type of thing either. At times they do have mandatory trainings that have a deadline, and it is your responsibility to reach those deadlines. But as well, on top of like those normal tools with command line, a lot of people use PuTTY, of course. So PuTTY is one of the big ones that we utilize for like command line, not just in this role but other roles as well. And it's just a compilation of all these different resources that we have to kind of just track. And at first it might seem like, oh my God, this is a lot. But once you start using them on the daily, you realize that you don't use them all the time. It's just when you really need them. It's always good to have kind of just like a spreadsheet with all your different resources or a document to kind of track your links, and you know that it's readily available. Teams, of course, we use as well for our HR or even email, and we even have like a specific Teams chat for HR for any concerns you may have.
It sounds like we all use pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Like I hate Avaya. I'm not it. But like with the ticketing system, yeah, we have our own ticketing system. And the good things about ticketing systems is when you run into problems, you have the ability to go back and say, what did this person do? Oh, that's what
If
they
they
did.
did a good job documenting
Okay,
it.
so that was going to be my next thing. I'm sure as many
Kyle the plant.
as soon that's what I was gonna say. Assuming most of you guys know, documenting is Andrea something really drives home, and it's something I've always done. No, not only do I document stuff in my tickets, I actually once I learn something and I have the steps and I've learned what I've done, and I actually create my own knowledge bases. So then what happens is if we have new employees that come in and they need to do something and I don't know how to do this, here, I'll send them one of my knowledge bases. It's step by steps. I'll put pictures in there. There's arrows pointing at stuff. And because of that, people are horrible at documenting. You know, my last networking job, I went in there. They fired him. He was supposed to be training me. He didn't want to train me because he thought if I'm the only one that knows it, they need me more than I need them. And when he said that to them, they fired him. You need me more. You want to bet? So then I went in, and I'm like, they're like, all right, get started. And I'm like, they thought he'd been training me for the last, year and a half. And he didn't. He just never talked to me. Ever. So I'm going in. That's how I found out he was actually using all of our servers to do Bitcoin mining. And yeah. So we were wondering why we were using so much data, and our everything was getting so hot, and so I'm going through and I'm trying to figure out what this, and I'm like buried in a folder and a folder and a folder and a folder and a folder. I pull up this thing. I'm like, oh, and that's why. Yeah. He was so for. And he worked there for probably 5 or 6 years.
Did you retire after that by any chance?
Yeah, he might be sad.
I don't know how much he got, and I ended up having to get rid of all of it. But he had no documentation, so I had to almost start at the beginning of, like, his most current documentation that he had at that time was like 4 years, and you can imagine how much changes after 4 years. Almost everything. So I had to start, and that's when I really was like, I'm so glad that Andrea drove this into my head to document, and that's why I keep my own, especially because in 6 months you're going to come back and you can be like, oh, I remember what I did now, and then you have your notes, in your in your switches and everything, but I have a whole separate set of notes. So make sure to, and do that too when you make your tickets in your ticketing system. Document it well, because somebody is going to come after you, and that is going to give them a teaching moment. And so that would be the best thing to do.
And it shows that you're a team player. Okay, that means you're a team player.
Yeah, I don't have much to add there. I think it'll come as no surprise. We use Teams, we use Outlook, we use Kusto for our query language. Excel, we use a lot of Excel.
Yeah. Learn Excel.
Yeah, and a lot of proprietary kind of software that we use. So, yeah. Also on documentation, we have a team specifically that looks at documentation, and I don't know, maybe your companies will be the same, but people do look at that, and they gauge it, and they see what's going on. So, another reason to be good at documenting. Yeah.
Assuming the Microsoft guys use one, but
Well, yeah. Locally for our teams, we have OneNotes for a lot of things. I think organization-wide, we have pretty much knowledge-based articles. So whatever ticket you go to, it'll be linked to the ticket, so you know exactly where to go to find it.
I created all of that because nobody would do it. So that's
Good for you.
And I just did it for me.
Yeah.
Because the people at my last company were so mean that I didn't want to ask them anything.
Yep.
So that was another reason why I did it, because I was like, I know if I have to ask them something, it's just going to be miserable. So I was like, I'm going to make sure that I have all of this awesome documentation and all these awesome, and I used OneNote, and that's what I did. I had it all categorized, tabs and tabs and tabs, documents, a lot of Word docs, and I just stick them all in there, and they would, and then when I left, I deleted it all. That's how nice I was.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
why did you do that?
Because they were so horrible to me. Like, here's a good example. We had a network outage, and we were with Rackspace. That was our server farm was Rackspace. So we were trying to figure out what was going on. I remember I was looking up, because we made a PDF of our whole network, and I pulled up the PDF to look at some of our IPs so that I knew what one I was going to go to. They told me I broke it because I looked at the PDF. I can't break a network looking at the PDF. So I was like, well, if you guys are going to be like this to me, then you guys can create your own knowledge base.
It was your knowledge base that you had built
It was my
it.
knowledge base that I did for me. I did a kind of a separate one for the company that I left, but the internal IT one that I made for me, and that was it was way nice. I deleted it because they didn't do anything extra to help me. So why would I leave something awesome for somebody else? I left the general one that was very descriptive. It was very descriptive. I did leave one, but like my really super nice one, I deleted. I didn't want the next person to have to go through what I went through, but I wasn't gonna give them as detailed. So like they had all the IP, they had passwords, they had procedures, they had, you know, the disaster recovery. I left all that stuff. But the secret
Yeah.
sauce, they didn't get that. But they had everything they needed to do their job.
Yeah. So I'll say a little bit about, let me say one little thing, and we'll come back to you. So the culture of IT is changing, and there's a lot of room still for improvement, okay? And I think what Kyle's describing was a more common behavior is that I have to keep what I know. I can't share it because IT wasn't as prevalent as it is now, right? It wasn't as invasive where every single store needed IT, every hospital needs IT, right? It's just so much different. IT is a much more mainstream job now than it was a long time, like 20, 30 years ago, when one guy, one man, right? One white man ran the IT department. That's changing, and that needs to change. Okay, and so we're counting on ourselves and all of you to be a part of that change, right? We need men, women, people of all color, right? We need all of you in IT to keep expanding that. And IT is a team sport. It really is not something that can be done alone anymore. But there are still some of that. There is still some of that mindset, you know, where you have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain way. I mean, you know, somebody told me once that I needed to grow my hair out in order to be a teacher, right? And I was just like, well, I don't know what my hair has to do with being an IT teacher, but I'll take it under consideration. Okay, you know, just stuff like that, right? And it's probably more because I was teaching IT, you know, but who knows? So really, we're really counting on all of you. And that's one of the things, like, we really want you all to have success because we believe that you're part of the change. You're part of moving the culture forward so that, you know, you will not face having to work with someone that will not share knowledge with you, that will not share information with you. So, you know, this is
I
what
just
I'm
wanna
saying.
I have a great team. I'm sorry, I have a great team now.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. There's people.
It's more
that-
common now.
I call them at 3 o'clock in the morning because you know I work 10 to 6, so 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So like I could call them at 3. Hey man, sorry I woke you up. Hey, no problem. What do we got going on? You know, just like when the CrowdStrike thing happened, I had to call so many people to come in to have to deal with that I was like, hey, I'm just letting you know that something happened. And this was before it was on the news. This was before anybody, I'm sure you guys dealt with it too. And I was like, they're like, what's going on? I was like, I think, I don't know, everything just blue screened. They're like, what? And I was like, yeah, we have nothing right now. And I'm sure you guys woke up to that as well. Yeah, and they're like, so when everybody came in, like, Maricopa County, we thought we were hacked. I'm sure a lot of companies did. And and the phones were ringing nonstop, and we're like, we were doing everything humanly possible. So, but now it's a great team. Like they were there, everybody was there in, 20 minutes, and we were all, together as a whole and like, together as a team. Everybody's input was equal. Everybody's suggestions were equal, and that's the kind of environment that I am truly thriving in as an IT person. Now go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, just what Andrew was saying, and the reason that I teach is to come back because I know there's a cultural change. I want to get back to see that cultural change because when I told you about my story back when I went into IT and I was going into computer programming, that was the stereotype. It was this one person, one guy, one person. They were the holder of all that knowledge for IT in the back room, and wealthy they were. But look at the population that we have right now, the diversity and and culture and gender. That is the change, and that is what makes a team because, as I said before, an enterprise will not survive with just Greg Davis sitting there. It is the team of everybody there sharing that knowledge, and you may think it's a bumper sticker sign, but it does work. Kyle just showed you what it does. So anyway, I just wanted to foot stump on that. It's like, yes, that's why I want to get back to this in the college level, because I believe in that change of happening with the student level, and it will take across the enterprise.
I think with that too, Satine, is, you know, I still call people that I took these classes with. When I have problems, I've got two people. I've got Darren
Yeah.
and Logan. I still talk to them on a regular basis. Hey, I've got this problem. What do you guys think? And so, and that's another great thing too. And then so when openings come up, there's somebody's. I tell them, hey, we've got an opening. Be the first to apply. So that's another great thing that you guys will have here too. Is now you have a support system within here that'll always get carried on.
Yeah. That's
So,
good.
and if you can always get your friend in there.
Yeah, Mark had a question. Oh, here, I got this. Sorry, Mark, I forgot about you first.
Yeah, so essentially this is a question, kind of just to kind of grow off of this. You know, obviously you gain skills and you gain, you know, professional growth in that aspect. But between that, how are they able to, actually more or less, how do you balance your professional growth within your personal life? Like, do they intermingle within each other, especially with the two gentlemen that are, one in the government and then one with Maricopa County? I don't know how, you know, Microsoft is, how embedded it gets into your life, you know, with the security protocols. Like, do they very get in depth into your personal life, or do they, like, it's your cutoff?
I
Do you mean like from a security perspective, how embedded are, like how invasive? Like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. For like security clearance, like, you know, they embedded into like your home computers or your personal aspects of that.
So personal aspect, no, but like I have a work computer that I take home when I do, remote. That thing is locked down tight because it's for the sheriff. So there's a lot of programs that I have to get into, and there's a lot of stuff. And then like I get calls from the deputies, and I get calls. So there's a lot of information that can't get out because it's law enforcement, and so like we have to we have to change our passwords every 90 days. It can't be anything remotely close. We're always having to take different. It's like a CIIJS, federal FBI stuff that we always have to take all the time, which is
Like training, is that training?
Mhm.
Okay.
you have to renew these certificates every year. I mean, and it's stuff that's for us. It's common sense. Don't leave your computer on you when you walk away. Don't stick a sticky note underneath the keyboard with every password on it. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. But you have to have same thing with our cell phones. So we just changed out all of the iPhones for the sheriff's department. Even though we wiped them all, we still have to shred them.
Yeah.
So all thousands of iPhones now have to go into the shredders, and they have to be shredded because major crimes used it, the forensic people used it, all these. Go ahead. No, but I want to go watch. I asked. I totally asked. I was like, because you watch those videos and stuff, and you're like, I would love to watch 2,000 iPhones, especially the iPhone, get shredded.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I've seen it.
Yeah, it would be awesome. But on top of the security thing, it's like if I get pulled over, I have to tell them. If anything like that, so like for the sheriff's office, you have to do a background check. So like they had to go through my phone. They had to look at what I was doing. So I do some podcasts. I had to sit and explain those. Well, because he's going through and he's like, well, you like to talk about aliens and ghosts and stuff like why? So then I had to explain it. They looked at all my driver's license back to when I was 16. Why did you look like that? And I was 16.
Yeah, I mean,
Of course I looked weird. I was they had to look at all my tattoos. I had to describe them all. It was like I don't know, it must have been like 2 hours that and then they have to go through your entire life.
Does
Yeah.
that continue now that you have been hired?
They don't update unless something goes
Wrong.
wrong.
Okay, so you're in now, you're not continually scrutinized.
No, unless I get like pulled over or something.
Right. A triggering event, we
Yes.
call that, a triggering
But
event.
I was looking at these questions, and I'm like, why do they ask these questions? You know why they ask those questions? Because somebody did it.
Yeah.
That's why. No, they didn't have. No, I didn't have. They had cut those off which I was like, not because I was lying or anything in my background, because a 4-hour polygraph, that's scary.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put a tack in my shoe or something. I don't know. Like,
that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I know.
I was joking. I don't know.
So for the job that I work, I do have a computer. I work remote. That computer's locked down, secured, and I VPN into the network. On a personal level, I have a Department of Defense top secret security clearance. So I did get a background check from the FBI, and I'm familiar with those kind of the military because I had just a general security background check on that. So they would go back, and then they would, have to fill out all these questions all the way back to 19 whatever and get all those questions. Then they would ask me for references, and those references, they go out and talk to them. It's like, who is this person? Is he, someone that we could vet and put into? And so, as Andrew was saying, those are, the initial, and nothing else goes back to that background check unless they're triggering an event, which could happen. My finances could trigger an event. If something happened that way, they would say, hey, what's going on? What's happening with that? Even if I went bad on a mortgage or something like that. From a perspective of, he's like, oh, that kind of happens, but in their eyes, that's something could be triggering, that I could be, vulnerable to, a bribe or something like that, all those type of things. A DUI could kill my clearance too, also. So those things that we say happen normally in life, and those unexpected whatever, could be triggering events when you're involved with a government agency. You get that background clearance, you get, so to speak, like that. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it could. It could. It depends on how far they go back. Yeah, the type of job I'm at. Yeah, not every IT. And a good clarification, I want to kind of speak from the, it's really scrutinized. And again, you're being allowed to be on a network that has access to a lot of different components out there. Very sensitive information, So in that, you could get into jobs in ITs with that. And I would say anything just with any job outside of what I do. IT covers a lot of information. In my security class, that's one of the things we talked about, a vulnerability, just anything you can get a hold of, and you can start going lateral and vertical and get into things. So we all protect devices, but as the question of what we're talking about right now, from a professional, growth, things that you have to maintain your clearances, different things you get into, law enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, or even in Microsoft, I'm sure. There's very many things there. Data centers.
You have access.
So much out there.
Yeah.
Well, for us, it's not as bad.
Thank
To
you.
be honest, but even with a lot of these big tech companies, of course, your usual background check, of course, like all your homes, the homes you've lived in for the past 7 years, and all that fun stuff. So it's still your usual background checks, and of course, even having a DUI and things of that sort will definitely impact the way that you could potentially be hired. On top of that, of course, you always have to sign an NDA. I'm pretty sure my NDA with Uber and Google are still active. So, so even with those NDAs, when it comes to your professional and personal life, I just kind of make a little barrier where if someone does ask my job, I just say, oh, I work with computer systems, and keep it at that. Why? Because if I say a computer server, I come from a Mexican household, and I say server, and in Spanish it sounds like I'm saying a waiter. It's like, what do you mean you're working with a waiter? Not that type of server. Okay, so I don't like to go and deep dive what a server is. I just say I work with computer systems. But even then, it's one of those things where I've had people ask me oh, what do they look like? I can't tell you. All I say is imagine a lot of computer parts in a box. That's in a steel box. That's the best way to describe it. So just keeping that separation of what you can say and what you can't is one of those things that you just have to be conscious about. But it's not something you have to consistently think about. It's kind of natural. You eventually just know what to say, what not to say. And for example, like a lot of the processes and operations that we had at Google, I just hold on to myself, and I'm not gonna transport that to Microsoft because it could be very counterintuitive, and who knows, it might be against my NDA, and I'm not trying to be sued. So
Yeah.
so it's just having those separations of your personal life and professional life, and just following the rules, you know. And on the security aspect as well, lock up your laptops, all that stuff. I've worked at coffee shops, and we always have like privacy protectors in our screens, or utilizing a VPN whenever you're on a public space.
Right.
Things that sound very like, oh, they say this all the time on the internet, but it really does make a difference, because you never know. When I was at Uber, I was there during the time that they got hacked. By the kid, I think he was from London, and that he later hacked Rockstar and he got caught. Yeah, we were present when all that went down, and it was insane because they took over the chats, and it was a crazy event. But it's one of those things where the most minor security thing that you could potentially think of, that Jeremy from IT sent you a message and you're all like, this seems legit.
Yeah.
Let me click on the link, you know? So you really have to be like, all those security trainings that you do about like detecting all the flaws in an email and all that type of stuff, as crazy and annoying as it may sound that you have to do this over and over again, I have actually received emails and text messages that look very legit, but I look at that URL and I'm all like, wait a second. Or the sender. It'll say like HTTP, but where's the S in the secure section, you know? So very minor details that could definitely like basically impact your security.
And I'm sure you guys do it too, but we constantly send fake emails out all the time to everybody. And we get so many calls, and that's what I do to everybody is, you know, because a lot of your end users, they're not going to be super savvy. They know that they have to click this, they click this, they click this, and that's what they have to do. So they'll get these fake emails that we send, and that's, I go through, and I always remote in so I can see the email just in case it's real, and I just don't tell them to delete like an important email. But like we'll go through, and then I'll teach them, look, if you hover right here, see how it says McRonald's and not even spelled McDonald's right, but you're not going to get something from McDonald's, you know, through the sheriff's office, you know, and stuff like that. And so I try to teach everybody, all the end users, I try to teach them, like, this is how you map a drive. So then you don't have to call me. I don't care if you do, but but yeah, we do that. Like, I know when they go out to, and because all of a sudden we just get calls. Hey, they say my retirement's are cut off. Your retirement money is not cut off. You're good. But they set those kind of things because that's the kind of stuff that makes people nervous, you know, because benefits are so important.
So it'll make someone click, oh my God, my benefits.
Yeah, like
Social hacking.
yes.
Yeah,
So they do that, and like I fell for one once
me too.
because part of it was like, I think this is fake, but because what happens is when you click on it, it sends you to a teaching thing where you have to read all this stuff, and then you take a test and you have to pass a test. And I was like, well, I want to see, this kind of looks legit. I think it's fake. I'm going to click it. And so I got to take the test and then go through it. So then I got to at least explain it to our end users. This is what it is. You just have to take this test. Because then a lot of them are scared that they're going to be in trouble, and then they don't want to take that test. It's no big deal. It's just training. And so.
Yeah, that's the finicky part with security. Treading the line of awareness, but also making sure that people aren't getting in trouble for maybe doing something that's not as secure. Because you don't want to scare them from security, but you also don't want to have people willy-nilly thinking about security. So it's a weird line.
And
that
if
we
you can
have
get them
to
to not
tread.
be a repeat offender.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great. That's great. It's ideal.
Okay, so let's see. It's about time. It's overtime. So does anybody have any questions before we wrap it up?
Please, ask
Yeah.
whatever you need.
I was wondering how much like sole responsibility do you guys have? Like, without relying on your team, how much do they want you to be capable of doing things on your own?
At my last IT job that I had, I was it. I was the IT guy. So if something would go wrong, I'd go, I really need to send this to, no, that's me, darn it. And then I would have to figure it out.
And that's kind of common.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies where there's like one person, two people.
Yeah. And so it was, I was doing everything from fixing laptops, fixing desktops, to sitting in these meetings for doing budgets and sitting in these huge, oh my God, it's the worst. Sitting in with hey, we need to get this new switch. Well, it costs $5,000. Can't we keep the one that we've had since, 97? No, let's upgrade. There's some new features. So, yeah. And, hey, do we really need extra air conditioning in the server room? No, it's cool until they learn when everything goes out, the AC goes out, and you walk into your server room, it's 100 degrees. I've encountered that. And then you're at work for 20 hours trying to get it all fixed. But yeah, and then like now I have a team. So, sometimes we all do stuff, but for the most part, there's always, it's always good to have somebody to go to and multiple people. When you're the only person, it can get difficult and stressful.
Okay. Follow-up question. So I'm struggling with like troubleshooting homework and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, how do you guys go through that process? Where do you go to get info for troubleshooting?
For
Cisco and everything?
yeah, this one's a little cliche, but usually I'll look it up. I have some Discord chats with my classroom, so I'll drop a question in there. There's a big Cisco Discord that I'm in, also with a couple thousand people in there that all have CCNA, CCNPs, all that good stuff, and they're also a really good help to figure stuff out. So it's really about just finding resources, but if all else fails, the internet will help you at least get an idea. and then
Google
you can go from
University,
there.
man, it gets you out a
it's-
lot. You know what?
yeah,
That's the
it's-
thing. I still carry this with me.
Yeah,
I still carry the 31 days, and I still have pages
for
bent
studying.
and everything. I carry my backpack with me
Yeah.
to this day. I still carry my thumb drives with everything that I did in here. Oh shoot, everything I did in here, and I'm really good at breaking stuff. So I got really good at trying to fix it because I always broke everything.
And can I say something about,
31 days to your CCNA.
so a lot of class, like what you're talking about, Lou, sometimes you have to be in the struggle so you can break through it and start to develop patterns and start to develop some of the skills, right? So some of that's just designed to make you have to struggle, because otherwise your brain doesn't learn how to troubleshoot. Like, it's a skill. Troubleshooting is a real skill.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen probably the first couple of years, right? So when you're struggling on a troubleshooter or a lab, like, that's by design. It's kind of by design. So you're normal is what it means.
And
It,
sometimes
it
just
means you're
being thrown
normal.
into the fire, and
Yes.
just having to sit and do it because you're the person that has to do it. And that's another reason why I fix it. I figured it out. I write it down. Because then, I remember that. I remember now I don't have to spend 6 hours trying to figure out, or 4 hours trying to figure out, or 10, because I've done all of those.
I did. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Excuse me. Also, add on that kind of what Andrew was talking about. It is a struggle, but in the job we have tiers. So there's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So at my level, like tier 3, before it gets to me, there's a group of team members that work there. Now, we're all in the same room, virtually, whatever. We can see that chat going on, but we let that escalate up. So you're not going to kind of be on your own, but there is a struggle that there's going to be anticipation that you're going to try to build your skills, coming in what you know. We know where you're at. We're going to help you grow, and you're going to build your technique as you move on too. So it is a struggle. It is something you're going to learn. It is a brain learning tool. We didn't just pop all this into our heads and say, oh, I'm taking on any problem. So download it.
AI is going to help us with some of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
AI is going to be able to help with a lot of what's happening in networking.
What if you're tried everything, you're at your wit's end, and you are the tier 3, but let's say you work at a place like where he works, where you can't do a specific problem about the infrastructure of something to randoms on the internet, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Right, there's gonna be trouble that,
I was just gonna say about
Yeah.
his previous question when it comes to sole ownership, is that in a large company like Microsoft, of course, there is a lot of team projects. You will work with others, but all these companies will require you to be independent as well. And when it comes to that portion, it will be more with your projects. Because I worked with large teams, but they're always at one point where, hey, here's this project. It's up to you to really just get with it and drive with it. And especially when it comes to like deployments or just random like cabling fiber projects, I'm basically creating the tracker, I'm printing the labels, I'm getting everything prepared so that I can hand it off to the next team. And whether they work with it all together or you have an individual person assigned to that project, you kind of know that you could always reach out to your team members, but also know that when you grab that project and you just drive with it, that is showing to your upper management and your team that, hey, we could depend on him when another project comes up, and that is just adding into your experience with the company and will help you just grow from there on.
You also have Cisco tech engineers that you can put a case in with. So once you run into a shop,
Vendor-specific kind of.
yes, you can go to vendor specific. What I'm working with right now, deploying a new wireless controller. So my knowledge and experience gets me to this level. It's a totally different platform. You're working within my teams. We bounce and get to those points, what we need to do. But then after that, we can go to Cisco, who is the vendor owner of that, and put in a attack case. You get an engineer with that. So it is, again, it's a collaboration. Definitely a learning process to get into it. But you could, like you say, get to a point where maybe you can't share that out where you can go to. Yeah, you can go back to the vendor and so specific things like that also.
And that's another kind of a bummer thing about having outdated equipment a lot of times is
Yeah.
going to the vendor, if you call them and you're outdated, like I had to call Dell one time because of a bunch of our DASs went out. And I couldn't get them back up and we lost a lot of information. I got it back, but like I ended up having to call Dell. And Dell was like, you give them your tag number and stuff. They're like, yeah, that's yeah, it was, yeah. So it cost $400 so that they would help, but that $400, and it only got me like 4.5 hours. So I made sure to get it done. But that's kind of when you're in those meetings, if you get to that point where you're in those meetings for new equipment and stuff, those are some of those factors that you could put in. Hey, if we let these things get to end of life, we're going to be spending X amount of money. If we have to get it to, we have to call a vendor. Eventually, you're always going to have to call a vendor.
yeah. Okay, now we're together. Okay, anything else? Nick? Where's the microphone?
So I have two questions. The first is I've heard a lot about like office jobs having like 3 hours of work that they are forced to pretty much span over 8. So, and like otherwise they'll get punished with like more work. So would you say that you have a healthy amount of downtime, or would you say it's just straight up going from one fire to the next for 8 hours?
I will say that's a hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's really a hit or miss because there are times where I remember we were just one of our first deployments in my previous job. We were just thrown into the fire and we were consistently working every single day from the moment we came in to the moment we left work. And once that deployment was done, I was quite literally building a Lego set at my desk, and we were playing Nintendo Switch in the little living room area because of how much downtime we had. But afterwards, it depends on the projects and what you have going on, and also the company you work for, because that's the big thing. The company and the work environment and the culture is what will determine whether you have to spread out those 3 hours into 8, or if you do have those 3 hours and you finish, you just speak with your boss and be like, hey, what else can I help with? You don't have anything else for me? You might be the lucky one to be going home early, or use that free time to learn more or catch up on a series. I don't know. So it can really be a hit or miss. But in our case, we always have work. Always. It's even if I finish my project and I have downtime, I could go to our queue and be like, where else can I help? And basically take on those tasks. Because if that queue ever reaches 0, that will be a holy miracle.
No, It's, again, very little downtime. It's not like a fire. We could run into bridge calls where we are on there for, we don't want like 16 hours for one, and depends. But again, that's comes and goes. But as he said, the ticket queue is never zero. If it's zero, then something's wrong, you know. AI is taking over and we don't have jobs anymore. But anyway, but no, you'll have a ticket flow. And again, it's something that you don't know about. Maybe you can take that ticket on and get someone who else help you to learn that skill. That's another thing that shows a manager that, hey, I don't know anything about firewalls. I never ran one of these tickets, but hey, Greg wants one. If he's done one, if I take the ticket on, can Greg work with me? Yes. That's how you show the appetite that you want to learn and move on. So it's feast or famine different in IT. It depends on what's going on at the moment.
That's the first thing I do when I get into work. I log in and I've gone through everything. I go through all the tickets from the first and second shifts, because maybe they got something that they didn't talk about, and so I go through, and anything that I find interesting, I'll go through, and that's the first thing I do is I look and see what was going on, so that I know exactly what I'm going to be encountering when I go in at night. As for downtime, I'm going to keep that. Third shift is a different. Third shift is a different. It's a different animal altogether. So, but it's stuff like, usually when stuff breaks, it's at night. For some reason, I don't know why. It really likes to break at night.
Can I just want to explain, you use the term bridge call, so I just want to explain what a bridge call is, because it happens sometimes in IT more than we'd like. It's basically when something bad has happened, so, or like probably with the CrowdStrike, you might have had something like this. Basically, right, you put up a bridge, which is like a way to have a bunch of people on a phone call or a conference, and it stays, so like Greg said, 16 hours, right? It stays open till the problem's resolved. And so there might be like a manager or a VP or a director or the CIO on there, even the CFO, depending upon the seriousness or what the issue is. So, and then your technicians, and you might have like a check-in time. Like literally your technicians might have to check in every 30 minutes. Okay, this is what I did. This is what I found. I'm still working on it. So it just depends on the company and what's happening and what it is that, you know, but that's what a bridge call is. So that's a bad day. That's not a good day. Now, I mean, unless it's like a cutover, which is a planned event, you might also have a bridge call, because like if you do it, okay, I see Nikki nodding. You might, yeah, it's not always bad. So there might be like a planned cutover that's expected to take 8 or 12 hours. You keep the bridge open in case something goes wrong. So,
We do patching.
yeah.
We sit there, and there's like 4 of us on a call, and that's what we're doing. We're all going through our patching and talking and
Yeah.
making sure nothing goes awry. So,
Exactly.
so yeah, you're right. Sometimes there are good ones.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you get added into a bridge call and you're not even supposed to be there, and you just see like half of the participants leave the group. So
But if you get added to a bridge call and you save the day, that's great. I got added to a bridge call once. They were like, what's going on, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, it sounds like your BGP is down. That's what it was. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, it's like the hero. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a second question. So, what would you say is the like minimum or a good amount of like education and experience for one of the more entry level jobs? And is there like a dissonance between like what you actually need to know versus what will get you hired?
I wouldn't say there's a minimum or maximum. And the reason I say that is because it depends on what you want to learn and what you want to pursue. I've met technicians that have dedicated literally 4, 5, 6 hours a day trying to learn their role, and I have met technicians that will only learn in the weekends, myself. So I tend to a lot of times when I was learning my role, because I knew your basic components to a computer, but I didn't know how to work a server. And I remember on my first day, the first thing they asked me to do is to do a motherboard swap. And I'm all like, oh, great. No post, yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah. And it was a learning experience. So I told myself, you know what? Once I get home, let me figure out what a no post is, what components go into it, and what is the proper troubleshooting way to it. Because unfortunately, at the time, my team members were not super useful when I was a contractor. they just had that mindset of, I don't get paid enough for this. So I kind of had to take on the initiative to learn myself how to troubleshoot the servers. I was on XDA figuring out the command line that we had to utilize and how to kind of just find proper methods to do everything. And even our inventory at the time as a vendor wasn't amazing. So I'm like, you know what, let's buy bins and label them and let's have a whole RMA for it. And it's up to you what your role is and what you want to learn and how you want to spread out that education, whether it's going to be while you're on the job or in your free time. But as long as you learn it and you know you could grow from it, that's more than enough, in my opinion.
And I'll tell you one thing honestly is I've had job interviews because I've taken these classes at GCC. Because the hiring managers there and the people, they actually took classes here as well. And so now they're in a position, they're like, okay, you know, like I was, a couple of my interviews, I wasn't even done yet. I was still taking classes and they saw that I was taking classes here. The only reason I didn't get the job is because they hired from within first. And that's the only reason why I didn't get it. But that was like, oh, you take those classes here at GCC? Oh, we know what kind of dedication and stuff you have to this. So it's not always having that degree, but it's kind of, you know, where you go and they know what you are capable of, what you can be capable of. And you always just tell people in these interviews, you're willing to learn. You don't know everything. I'm willing to totally learn. Yeah, you know, because like, you know, like one job interview I was on, they said, what do you do to improve? And it's, I mentioned this book. I mentioned YouTube, and you know, you always read all the articles, and you're always part of all the tech groups and stuff, you know, like the Discords. And I said, that's what I do to keep up with everything. And you know, another thing that I did is I have my own. I have 3 Cisco routers and 4 switches at home. And so for a long time, that's what I do. I would sit there and practice. And that's one thing I would tell them in my interviews as well. That is something I do to keep learning is I sit at home and do it as well because I have. And you know what? You can get all that stuff, all older stuff, you can get that stuff off of eBay for dirt cheap. Like I got 4 switches, and they came from some bank. So, you know, and I had to blow them all out, but they were like $50 a piece, $40 a piece. So it, you know, it was, that investment was worth it to me to be able to answer a question like, this is what I'm doing to further myself to want to be part of this. If that answers your question.
Yeah, my answer is a little bit different. I was lucky enough to get my internship. I think in my first semester of EMTC, so I didn't have a lot of knowledge, but like the other guys have said, the passion to learn, the openness to learn these things is probably the most important part, in my opinion. Greg, do you have anything to add here? No? Yeah.
Okay, wrapping up.
Don't be scared to do 100 interviews.
Yeah.
Just keep doing them. Just keep, you know, and it's all right to tell them you don't want it. I've told people I don't want it.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had an interview. And here's, you want to know something? 2 things to do when you go to an interview that I think is good. I like to go early, and not to show that I'm prompt, but I like to sit and be there and be like, hey, how do you like working here? Hey, what do you think of this place? And I like to watch the interactions with people because if everybody's walking around miserable and complaining and not happy, you probably don't want to work there. But if everybody that you talk to is like, you know what, man, this place is great, the people are good, everybody seems kind of cheery, okay, this is somewhere I'm going to say. I've got up and left places because I'm like, ew, everybody is miserable here. And you don't want to be somewhere that you're miserable. It's not worth it. And, you know, and if you can't negotiate your pay,
No good.
hey, we actually want to give you this. Thank you. I'll talk to you guys later. I appreciate the experience.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing is make sure the people that are working there are happy.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's great advice. Cool. Thank you. All right. Like such a good conversation. Like so good. It was so good. Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll see you next month.
Yeah, I'll see you next month.
So next month is
Great.
Converged Security.
Okay.
Maybe Greg will join us again to talk about your security. Yeah, okay. So next month we're doing Converged Security. It's the last Wednesday of October. So have a good class. I know we took up a lot of it.
Thank you all. I'll put
Good
my
job.
information, my LinkedIn on the board.
Oh, yeah,
If y'all
will you
wanna-
do that?
Yeah.
So Naeem will put his LinkedIn.
y'all
Are
wanna
any of
connect.
you coming to the LinkedIn workshop on Friday?
On Friday?
Oh, good, good, okay.
I like how different.
9 to 12.
Oh,
Yes.
I had
Yeah, 9 to 12.
Like,
9
I
to
never
12.
had teamwork and all that in the beginning until I was doing another one that's not
Yeah, it's
like it was
We might,
like,
yeah.
I was miserable for years and I hated it. But I knew that if I could just get somewhere else that was like more team.
That was like me when I was working at Amazon. I was doing iShock there, which is like their procurement stuff, and like I didn't like they didn't do the interviews in the office. They did them at a different location, and it was like the second I walked into that office, like my anxiety just shot through the roof on my first day, and it never left until I left that company.
Like the last place, like my first day there, I didn't even know the guy. He was one of the software engineers there. And it was my first day and like, I got there early.
Oh, okay.
Sitting there and I didn't really know what I was gonna do. No one had actually told me. And he walked in and he just started screaming at me. And I was like, who is this guy? I don't even know him. And for the first 3 months, whenever I would hear the door open and the ding of the door
Are you
open,
coming to the LinkedIn workshop
he
Friday?
would
Yeah,
come
I'll
in
be
and
there.
Oh,
scream
good.
at
Are
me.
you gonna be on
And
the
I had
panel?
no
No,
idea
I'm not.
why.
I'll
Like,
be in the crowd.
I don't know if he drove.
Oh, okay, good. And then maybe walking around and calling you.
Like, he's like, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna start
Oh, so
screaming
how's
at
that
this
gonna
guy.
work?
And it
I'll
was
just
like
to
that
help
until the
with
So
day
the
they'll-
resumes and
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
just looking over and
using
like,
Office
go do
Oracle,
this, do that.
because at
Some
one
people
point
will
I
be
was
like,
gonna
how
get
can I
interviews,
highlight
and I
my
told her to
experience when I don't have
recruiter,
any?
like, hey,
Well, what
I'm
kind of classes
actually
have you taken?
out of
Right,
office,
that kind of
very
thing. So
busy.
just helping
And
people
out of
think
the
outside
blue,
the box.
I'll be there. Are you
middle
gonna
of
be
my
there too?
doing
Yeah, I'm
grads,
starting. I'm
and I
ready.
get a call.
Really?
It's
Oh,
my
yeah, it is.
workshop.
Yeah, I'm like,
I keep forgetting that it's here. I keep thinking that it's at EMCC.
No, it's
They're
here.
here.
It's at GCC and the
Is it-
student union.
That's what, like across the way
and
down.
I'm all like, no,
Down that
schedule
way.
that. So well, nobody told
Yeah,
me
so
anything.
9 to
Well, I have to
9:30
go
is
to one,
like
and he
check-in.
hangs up, and I'm all like,
And then
I do not
we'll
want to work
start
for
at
you.
9:30. It'll be like a
And
panel,
their pay was
kind of
very
like
good.
this. It'll be a panel. And then.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm all like,
give you a buck and a half to make sure you don't complain.
I
After
always
that,
say,
where,
there's not
Isel
enough money you
from
can
Career
pay.
Services,
Yeah.
she'll walk you through how to.
Oh,
set
no,
up
yeah, that was me at
LinkedIn,
Amazon.
different things
My
to think
current
about.
job,
She'll
I'm
show
not
some
making as much as I
demonstrations.
was at
And
Amazon,
then
but
people will just
I'm
work
happy
on their
with it.
LinkedIn
And I don't
profile,
feel
and we'll walk
I had to
around
get
and
on
help.
Okay.
anxiety.
Yeah.
You need me on the panel? Brian told me they got it.
really toxic.
Yeah, I think they got it.
Okay,
Like
cool.
that.
I mean,
My
but
last week,
feel
they
free to
beat me down
interject,
to nothing.
you know.
Oh yeah,
it'll
there
be
was
like
like
this.
a
I want-
40-something-year-old woman that like out of nowhere would just beef with me
We
for
have
no
some really
reason.
good people on the
Like just
panel. It'll
reply
be
nasty
Brian,
stuff to anything I say in our team chat. One day I just like got up and I walked over
the
to him and
director over the
said, I
state,
sit 3 chairs
very,
down.
very good. And then,
I look at you when you send me these
Juanita's
messages
gonna be
and you
be
don't
on
like
that,
it.
Juanita's gonna be
Yeah.
You have
there,
something
and
to
then
say,
Wendy.
talk to me because I don't
Brian's
even know
career
you.
coach.
Really?
Yeah, so I think it's
Those are like,
really.
and that's what
That's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it too, honestly, to build my LinkedIn, get some insight. I think
But I,
Oh, yeah.
when I
I think
talk
it's gonna be
about
good too.
online
So we
stuff,
already have like
what I
32
would do
people.
is I would crack jokes and try to.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
I was gonna
And
ask
they
you how
didn't
many people
appreciate
were
it. She didn't
there.
appreciate it.
Well,
That's,
again,
and
32
that's
signed
where I
up.
get a vibe like,
I
okay,
usually
these
find
aren't
that
the people
less
that I was
show
Yeah.
up, so maybe we'll be
like
around
when I was doing
28,
it, so like I was
25.
Is it
That's
open
it.
to whoever wants to come?
Anybody who wants to
got
come.
all
As a matter of fact, I invited like the engineering department because data centers and engineering. I invited CAD,
Yeah.
you know, because there's a lot of different, and same even with Quantum, you know, they use people that have CAD and stuff like that, so.
Everybody does it, yeah.
Yeah. If anyone needs a break, go ahead and take a break.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, please.
I do IT for medical functions.
What's up, man?
Hey man, I'm Naeem.
Name's Tony. I just started my new job.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
man,
just got it.
congratulations.
Just got a job.
Congratulations. How does it feel?
Microsoft,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Once you're in, it's like, I mean, I'm not doing anything crazy right now. I'm just like helping other techs right now. But it's when you're there and you see people doing all this stuff, like everything it talks, that's how this stuff really works. You know what I mean? Like you read out a book, you're like, okay, but when you see it live, you're like, whoa, this is.
It's crazy to step in there and see everything that goes on, like everything that actually happens. It's kind of a shell shock. At least for me, it was like walking into this thing and like, whoa,
Yeah, bro.
this is it. After reading about it, doing some assignments on it.
I've only been on it for like. But yeah, I did like every day. I did supplies. I don't know. I didn't even remember applying for the job. To be really honest with you.
How many did you put in?
Oh man, I don't know. It was a lot. Man. I've been even before I started. Because I'm doing network plus advantage. Because I knew this is what I was going to do. I used to be a diesel operator, so it's like a whole new discipline. Yeah. On the way with everything. But once I knew I wanted to do it, I started.
and I have to be very careful with the way I
Like,
today.
I kind of know that.
Which is not great,
Yeah.
but
How was the interview?
I kind of developed the skills to approach
Just like
those type of people.
you guys were saying, like, I
and
built
kind
a
of
rapport
be
with
able
the
to
guy.
resolve
As soon as I
whatever
got in there, like, first thing I noticed he was
because
a
one
Packers
thing
fan.
that
I'm a
you
Packers
really go into
fan. So
the
he said,
interview
we just started talking, we just
personality.
we connected. It was weird. Like,
And a lot
it
of
was jokes. We joked
See,
and
that's the
stuff.
best way to do it.
Yeah, like we just joked. He joked with me and stuff. He asked me some questions, you know. And I was real with him too, because I was like, look, I'm entry level. I haven't done anything yet besides school. But he actually liked that. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, I get a lot of views coming here. They think they know everything. He's like, those are the first guys in this because they don't want to. They're just stuck in a way they don't want to learn.
They think they know everything.
Yeah, he's like, you're gonna come in. You gotta be open to stuff. He's like, they're gonna do new stuff every day. There's new stuff you never heard of. You know, like somebody's gonna.
Because I know, like,
Willing to, you know, yeah, willing to be open-minded, learn new things, but yeah, it's cool, man. Like, so I'm not doing a lot, but
What do you see yourself doing? What were you brought on board to do?
they call us service techs. I guess they do a little bit of everything. They do cloud services, voiceover. They do. We set up things for different clients. They even do networking. They run cables. They do a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so you're gonna get a whole breadth of
Yeah.
all different aspects.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So he's like, depending on what, he's like, what I want you to do is
What do you
he wants
find
me
more
to like
important?
learn something.
Knowledge
Usually
or good communication skills?
how every tech is there. Like, everybody works good, like you're gonna say, but like, everybody's good at one thing.
Yeah, people have their specialties.
Right, you know, they got a network guy that's really good networking, you know, another guy's really good at building computers and fixing computers and all that stuff like that. So like,
What do you think your niche is gonna be? What do you want it to be?
I don't know. Because he even asked me, he's like, you know, it's one of those questions like, where do you see yourself? Or because he asked me, why did you leave being decent? And I was like, it's just, you know, I maxed out. You've done more than anybody else. Nowhere else to go. Plus, I was getting passed on. I wanted to be in management, but I was there hiring people that didn't know anything about it. Oh, yeah. And then never my supervisor. I had to go to somebody who doesn't know. What am I supposed to do? You know, if I'm stuck. So like, I had to get out of that field. I just tell him like, you know, I'll figure it out. Because I mean, it can change. Because he's like, well, do you want to be management here? Because it's a smaller company. And I was like, I feel like things are going to change. Like, I can say, yeah, I want to be management in IT, but I need to know what, you know, where this, because it can take you anywhere, right? It can take you, you know what I mean? So that's what I can explain. Yeah, I was able to do Microsoft, bro. That's what's cool.
It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Like I said earlier, it's probably one of the best parts of the brilliant people that I get to meet.
I don't care that they say that you look at something they're like, you need to send it to the lead. That guy's sitting next to
Top
me.
in class,
So he's listening to me.
so it's like,
Why would I send it to him when he's sitting right next to me? So that he can answer it.
but yeah, it's fun, man. I do, we have a lot of work, which is pretty nice. A lot of things to do all the time, but Microsoft is really good at balancing that. Yeah, we have a bunch of work to do. Also, you are you. So,
This is what I tell a lot of people. We're still cycling one generation where people, that computers were not
You
their
guys gotta
world.
go that like work balance.
And that's what a lot of these people, like I do a lot of
That's the cool thing about the job is he's like, look,
detention officers and stuff.
I'm like salary.
So they're getting to their retirement, so they're shifting out.
So you
You know,
can
like I had a guy yesterday,
as long as you communicate to.
he's probably a couple years from
I'm not there
retirement.
yet, but eventually I'll have an
We
app on my
have
phone.
to change,
That's
every
how you
time
communicate with customers.
you clear passcode, you have to update your phone.
What time you're in, what time you're out.
90 days.
Oh, see, that's nice.
He wanted
I
to
don't
use
care.
his old
That's
passcode.
such
So
a
you
good
take care of your
quality of
customers.
Probably close to your old passcode.
I'm good. You're not
He
gonna
got
hear
mad
from
at
me at
me.
all.
He's like,
So I'm like, okay.
You should dig ditches
Like I don't even,
because that's
eventually
something
won't even
I
have to go
probably know how to do better than this.
Really?
And I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
just
yeah, you're probably
drive
right, but
and it
you
goes
still
straight
gotta make the
to
password
go straight to client. Whatever they need, you may have to go get parts or whatever, maybe take up a laptop replacement, whatever. But that'll be the only time you actually have to.
That's nice.
Yeah,
I'm
it's crazy.
glad you have that, and I'm sure it's different coming from being a mechanic where you got people like that all the time.
I like helping people.
So that's a good thing.
I like knowing
It's
how
like
to
a
make
good,
someone's
like,
job easier for them.
at least I get to
If I
a
meet
little bit of,
somebody
work-life
that's,
balance.
you don't know what's going on with somebody, so you can
So even for 3 days, just feeling that work-life balance, how's it been?
It's pretty cool. Like yesterday, I got to go out with a tech.
especially
We were
with
done
law
like 2:30.
enforcement.
The tech's like, look, he's like, look, man, I want to get out of here by 2:30. I need to be here by 6:30. And I was tired.
Why
I'm
should
still
on top
tired.
of the frustrations that they are.
But because he was training me, so he's like, this is something here, I need you to be here. I want to
Why
be
should
here. We were setting up
Why should I
printers
do that? If I can make
setting up
deputies'
some
day a
desktop
little bit
for
better because their
Walgreens.
technology is working, then that makes them one step better.
It's the warehouse where they feel like all the
Deputies,
like all the online medicine.
going on for them.
Yeah, so much robotics.
Do they have robots?
Yeah.
Why should
They're billing cars. They're just filling prescriptions. But then I was thinking, like, wow, that's another IT job. Like, yeah, you just get into. So I'm like, that's what I'm like. That's why I like my IT man. You can go like anywhere.
Yeah, you know the nice part about it is you're in the door, man. You're literally wherever.
The good thing about
That's the best part about it. You're in now.
Yeah. It's like, because he's like, you want to be on the networking side, so if you want to make some 6 figures, you gotta go on that side. Because you only got like 3 guys. But he's always telling me, oh, you do the network bus? When you make them 6 figures, I was like, oh yeah, man.
Study for that, get that, and also if you can grab the CCNA while you're in these classes, bro. Since I got my CCNA like a month ago, man, Uber's so amazing.
it takes a
Really?
long time to catch up.
You think that continue networking is that one good too? That's what I'm doing right now. I know it's basic, everyone says it's basic.
Well, I wouldn't say super basic. You have more, I guess, we have more like technologies from like different vendors, kind of
Because the CCNA is just what do you call it? It's just that specific.
it's Cisco. Yeah, but at the same time, within it, you get the hands-on configurations. A lot of the commands you learn in the routers and switches from Cisco, you can carry that same command over to it might differ slightly, like maybe you got a couple extra letters here, a couple less letters here, but all in all, it's still the same commands. So, what I would say is better about the CCNA than the Net Plus is just the hands-on, the configuration, getting into a device and seeing that. That's what you're going to see in the real world. They're going to ask you, hey, look at this network.
Sometimes they do, they're like,
Fix it, put a configuration on it, and then Plus can't teach you that. I mean, maybe it can, but you're more...
Like that's during the interview process?
Yeah, they can ask you during the interview. If you get the job, you're going to be doing that every day. There's going to be maybe minor issues or people escalating tickets to you, like, hey, I can't connect to the internet. Here's a ticket. Now you look at the ticket.
it was,
How do I fix this? Maybe I got to go in and change an interface, change an IP address, stuff like that. So I would say, if you're asking me, the CCNA is for sure a harder exam. You have to study more.
if I had, like,
But
yeah,
it's
if I
better
had to
than
reach
Net
out
Plus. And that's just my personal
Cisco
opinion.
is a vendor.
Net Plus, if they're asking you for that, though, go for it. It'll do you well.
Yeah. yeah. He hasn't asked for any of that yet. I mean, he's giving me. I gotta get my A+ in 6 months.
Yeah.
Which I should be able to get. Yeah, I should be able to get that, but I don't know what he wants for the network. I didn't really ask him. I know that like I talked to 2 of the guys over there. They do have their network plus, and they have their cybersecurity plus. One guy's got like the whole trifecta. One guy's got the. He was there when he never has to go back. Like a lifetime. Yeah, he's like, yeah, dude, I don't want to take it. I'm lifetime. Well, older. Just back in the day, that's what it was. You don't have to. Once you get, that's just now you have to.
Well, here's a bit of advice. At Microsoft, we use Cisco and Arista. Those are the main 2 providers, vendors that we use.
What was that again? Cisco and what?
Arista. I would say Cisco and Arista are probably the 2 biggest. So if you're like Juniper, maybe Palo Alto, you'll hear things like that. But Cisco and Arista are the 2 biggest ones. So, say Walgreens, for instance, you go in there, whatever client you go to, you take an inventory of what type of devices they're using mostly. And if you feel like you'll be here for a while, maybe it's worthwhile to get a cert in that area. You'll get more information specifically to help you here. Like for instance, you have Walgreens for a year, right? And you go in and you start looking around, you see Arista. Go for the Arista networking server. That way you're building experience on the physical device by furthering the knowledge. That way you're just efficient and you're
That makes sense.
you know what I mean? And then you can kind of tailor it wherever you go to. You get a cert in Arista. I mean, it's not going to be the same as getting a CCNA at Cisco, but if you do one cert like that, bro, you can do any cert like that.
I was gonna ask you, bro. You guys, because I heard like networking, like network engineers. You guys are on call all the time, right? Is that true?
Yeah. I'm not on call, but I know a lot of people that are on call. Like you'll go to their profile, their status on call
So
through weeks.
And that's one thing. So that one of the network guys over there, my boss, my first day, he took us all out to eat. My boss is chill. He's a cool dude, but he's like, yeah, I gotta have my phone on me in case someone. I'm like, so I'm like, man, I want to do networking, but then like I like that life work balance.
It's not that bad though. Think about it this way: you're on call. I mean, at like 3:30 a.m. Let's make it a bad AM. Maybe like 2:30 a.m. You're chilling, you're asleep. You get called. You gotta go in there and change a couple computers. It takes you 30 minutes, but you're getting paid $120K a year to wake up at 3:30 a.m. It's like, at least how I see it. It's like, bro, it's worth it. Like,
I guess I had it when I was a tech, when I was a mechanic, I was on call. I just had, it's just.
Those aren't any shoulder repairs, like any.
Sometimes you can talk. I'm sure. Like, well, you're not. I don't know if you ever. Sometimes you can walk a customer through it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't.
Yeah, you gotta go.
You gotta go. And the job I worked at, I go all the way. I mean, we have a jurisdiction in the You know what I'm saying? I've been all the way to Yuma, Tucson, like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and
So waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning, having to go through this roll call, and then you get there, it's something simple, you gotta drive back home, and now you gotta go to work. It just was a bad experience for me. Like, that's why I wanted to get back, because I'm tired of it. But I mean,
do you think it kind of rubbed you the wrong way completely from being on call? Like
I said, man, I don't know. I wish I could, like, I mean, and I don't, people, like, I'd have to, like, actually sit with my network engineer, like, yo, how many times, like, you know, because I guess it depends on you're working for the company, so the people on your team, you know, if it was like, yo, we do the phones, like, once a week or something like that, we swap it. Do they do that rotate, or is it just everybody?
They rotate.
They rotate. I could probably do that. That's what we did when we were Johnson County. We rotated and stuff. So.
Yeah, I feel like if you were the strictly on-call person, now that gotta be missed.
No. We rotated. The thing is like we were a small team at that, so there was only like 6 mechanics on call, or 6 of us. So like we were like at least twice a month, which doesn't seem too bad. But when you're sitting on a weekend, you're trying to chill, trying to play some games.
Bro, mid-game?
Yeah, bro. And especially when you can't figure it out on the phone, you're like,
hour and a half. Hey, I'll be out there.
Well, honestly, man, good for you, Tony. I'm about to get out of here.
All right, man. What's your name on it, man? I just started following you.
On LinkedIn?
Yeah,
I got you.
all right.
That's here. We're getting to to start the trade this week.
Thank you, sir, man, and your work.
Honestly, they do it for a lot of the time. It's kind of what they need.
I apologize for coming in late. I was stuck at work and the evening stay late.
We know how it is. Sometimes you gotta stay home.
You have a good night.
Oh, wait, you're amazing. Thank you again for coming. It's always a pleasure. Yes.
Figuring it out. And part of it was my last. I went somewhere else. I went to the sheriff's office.
Okay.
Oh, they're the same building, so I'll see you there.
Because I was so, like, for somebody was so done making there.
Like right down the hall.
Because like the way they treated me the whole time I worked there, I was so ready to go that there was no project there that I wasn't doing anything to
Really like have a ton of time, but what they lack a little bit, what I want.
because like, you know, like getting the fire
Very common
sheriff's
trying to
was,
like
it
see,
took 4 months
people that like
from my first interview to actually
kind of
getting
figure
hired.
out what areas they
And
can
so
open. And I don't do it like.
I didn't, you know, never time to
I know that the
moving.
yeah, you don't want them to know otherwise. Like,
So, like,
oh, I get so nervous.
once I got to the point where
like,
I finally said something.
the day before, I was with my coworker.
What actually happened was I wasn't gonna tell them all until I was putting in my
Hey, yo, bro, like,
one of my
buy your PTO, joking around. So, like, I don't think that's possible. Like, oh, like, as a director, he's all like,
and then they just ignored me.
because everybody in the office was like,
4
oh,
weeks.
no, the director's here, let me go to the workspace. And I'm all like,
So I
in
only
my
had to
eyes,
do bare minimum,
I can
and
see a
then when I put
director,
in my 2
CEO,
weeks,
or
I was
whoever.
like, yeah.
And for me, it's just and I immediately
That's, I think that's how
Worked there a week and then
do. Like they get your respect, but also like they don't want to be seen as like authoritative. Make it ready to like step on you.
Good,
which is funny because I immediately like tell him like, hey yo man, can I like buy you PTO? He's like, what you think about like, he has a ton of PTO, I'm working a ton of overtime. Can we make a transaction? And he's all like, and
verify me. I'm the one who
he was
answered
like,
the phone.
PTO, like, what's going on? And I'm all like, yes I know, I'm all, I use a lot of my
Yeah,
free time.
because I was nervous
because of
about that
HR.
part too. So I was like, I know the
Brian
center they call to
Plan,
verify.
come in PTO and save it, because we have like other benefits
that's
now. And after that, I'm all like, oh, okay, awesome, I'm definitely taking that into consideration. So like, plus, I think that might be illegal, because there's no way of tracking that. And I'm all like, it's only legal if people find out. So like, yeah, the giggle out of that, and my phone goes out like, man, I wish I could do like you, bro. How my dad's a director, I'm like, it's because you can't have that.
You're hired.
They are,
And I
they
was like,
respect the authority.
and then that's actually what made it take a little bit longer. Was I need to know 100%. They're like, and he kept telling me, you're hired. No.
I understand it completely. I'll do the same thing. Are you certain? Is there anything else I can do or give you to make this go? I'm looking forward to this. I'll definitely be coming around.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
I really
Like,
once I had I got like 6 missed calls from my mom over there, so. My phone was buzzing like crazy.
like something I was gonna
Yeah,
tell
definitely.
during this was,
I really
when I was
noticed my
doing my
phone
background check, they go back.
I'll probably be coming to that as well, because I don't even have a profile picture on mine. I always got like, oh, these many people saw your profile.
I haven't even set one up yet, so.
So like, they were like, so, at this time, somebody broke a window and you called
I
the
like
police.
made it, I like started making one day and had the profile and like just like just it was like my name and my last name and I think where I was going to school. I don't know one. And it was because they made us make it during one of my high school classes. And I never did anything with it. And I would occasionally like for a while get emails like when I would apply places like, oh, someone viewed your LinkedIn profile. I'm
You're like, okay.
like, there is nothing. If anything, that's not good.
Are you speeding tickets?
I was planning to, but it's I work from 7 to 7 to 4 pretty much every day. So.
But like, that was all stuff that would have came up because,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember when I was talking
I
about, they
honestly
had to,
would have
they looked
taken
at
it
every one
down,
of my
but
driver's licenses.
I honestly throughout the years I was 16 hit my sick time limit.
Yeah,
So, oh, I can't earn anymore.
They had asked me about those.
Waiting for
You know,
that.
like, I had explained like when I was like 20.
Yeah. I mean, I still get CTO. That's like I gain it unlimited up to 40 or whatever. But wife getting a new job.
I
It's just
forgot
been,
about
I've been having
that it
to
even
take
happened.
like an hour
Oh,
because she got hired at a Chick-fil-A.
I'm gonna have the money.
It's a 20-minute drive,
Okay.
and she doesn't have a license. Yeah, so it's 80 miles of driving for me when she goes, and I'm like, I don't want you to get a lift because gas is like,
Talk about like now.
like I can take you like 4 times before I need to fill my tank, and that's as much as like half of it, or that's like the price of a lift is filling my tank. So, yeah. Oh yeah. My brother uses it all the time. We have like an account that's like shared like a family, and I was having to go through and like look because I was like adding it up for my dad.
Stuff that you saw.
Trying to figure out how much is owed between them. Like I paid off all mine, and I was like going to my brothers, and I was like, there are some rides here I have no words for. Like there was this one that was really bad where he didn't even get driven anywhere. Like I don't know what happened, but it was like the lift drive. It was like it just showed a spot on the map, and like just a spot on the map. And it said like $4. And I was like, what did you do? If you're too late. Yeah.
Just because it has.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, you can't be doing that with that.
Good job, Kyle.
I was nervous, like I was going through all this stuff in my head for the last week, and I had all these,
the whole week?
Yeah, like I had all these
During
different
March
notes in my head, and
My
like I was gonna, I had originally like a
I remember like during that time, every ride was $30 minimum for like maybe 3 miles, 4 miles.
Hold that thought just a second. I need to fix something. I put it in the wrong class.
Yeah.
Just a second. In class, at the bottom,
Same things, I don't know.
copy.
You said there's 2 different classes that were listing, so I don't know who could be listing. I didn't want to say anything that would.
No, everything you said was really good.
Okay, I was nervous.
Everything you said was good. And what I think is funny is how
doing the smart move.
you modeled a lot of what I tell students, and so I'm glad. That's good.
Pay attention.
Yeah, you know, and that you're still using those skills that we talked about, and that it's helping.
It really does.
Some people like accept your ride.
We like
for a little bit and can't.
at my old company,
If you didn't want to take the ride, just like no,
knowledge-based
just don't ever accept. Because now I have to wait an extra 7
It was
minutes.
a thing of beauty.
Why can't you just take it with you?
I just deleted it. Because it was, I didn't take it with me because it was mostly specific to that place. So part of my
It'll say
non-disclosure
for
was
another
that.
driver, like it'll give you like a badge
And there was no reason for me, like,
But when you open the app, it'll say you still
certain
have that
things
same
that
driver coming to
I
pick
could
you up.
Yeah.
And like, because that literally happened with her ride. And I didn't
that's
mention it,
stuff
but she was saying like, there's some,
because
she's a pretty sassy driver, honestly, but she was saying how sometimes she just
Checking out
cancels the
her
ride because that's what happens.
everything that
And like,
every time I
people
figure
never,
something out,
because people
every
send
time I learn
negative
something,
like feedback to the drivers. If
like,
they cancel.
I know I drive people crazy, you know, but I got on the same.
So there was so
time,
much
I've
stuff
got
that
emails
that
and
was
calls that
the
says,
Thank
oh my
you.
God, you figured that out, thank you. And then those, they've sent
If I
emails
could
out
avoid ride
telling
sharing, I'll
everybody
avoid
how to
ride
fix
sharing,
something
but
because of what I figured out.
not like a
and
taxi,
they
isn't
got
it cheaper
referred
now?
to my tickets.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I like how you said, like, you save everything, right? Because the networks are fairly stable, so you never know when you're gonna need that, and you won't remember what you did a year ago. Do you see it now, Nick? Okay.
I loved what you had to say today, by the way.
Oh,
It
I was
was
so nervous I was
awesome.
being like
No,
too
you were
negative.
amazing.
You weren't being too negative.
No.
Okay,
You know,
and Kyle took the 8-week version of all of the Cisco classes.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
These are 16-week classes.
Oh, yeah.
I've changed everything to 16 weeks.
Oh,
These-
yeah.
The summer one was accelerated, right?
Yeah, the
That's what I
summer
was-
one is accelerated, but they were all accelerated. So you took 140 and 150 back to back, 8 weeks. You did 2 to 3 modules
I thought
a
this one
week.
was accelerated when I signed up originally, just because it was, I did it the same way I signed up for the first one.
Yeah,
I'm
that was
glad,
summer
I'm
school.
glad this isn't accelerated.
Where you currently work at, do you use AWS at all?
Yes.
Okay.
everywhere.
Because I know it's being used everywhere, I just didn't know like, how in-depth is your usage of AWS?
It's like, so MCSO's server room is probably bigger than this classroom.
Yes.
They also rent some of it out to companies to use as like where they are. But yeah, it's and that is my view at my desk, is staring into the server room. So when they were doing all the cabling and everything, drove me bonkers. First
Because
off,
you were just
I could-
watching them go up and down.
I could have done it a quarter of the time and did a better job, and I know I
Oh,
could
they
have.
just didn't route anything nicely?
It was,
Spiderweb?
So cable management wasn't up to par as it should have been.
just watching them do it, I was like, oh, and the waste, but it was a government job, so those always take longer, and because it's a government thing, so.
Makes sense.
But if you see the opportunities that NCSO come up, like, it's awesome working there, I love it. So if it, like, everybody there is.
Where is it at?
It's downtown.
It is downtown, okay.
It's on 6th and like Madison.
Yeah.
Jackson.
And
Jefferson.
how often do you go in?
When I first started, it was 2 days a week,
Okay.
but our new commander is like 6,000 years old. And that was
You
part of,
in every day.
that was part of my hiring package was, one of my incentives to go to NCSO was on the job listing was a hybrid schedule. We just got 1 day back. So now I work Thursday to Monday.
Okay.
Like this is my Sunday.
Okay.
And so Mondays are my work from home day. It used to be 3 days.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, so
But we have
you're
to make
going in on the weekend, so that's at least the traffic's maybe not so bad.
Oh, there's no traffic. I leave my house after 9 p.m. and I'm driving
Oh, and
away
that's
from
right, 'cause you're
traffic.
nighttime, that's right.
You got this one?
Third shift.
And your wife's good with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You hesitated.
Yeah,
She's better with it now.
well, she used to work, like when I took these classes, she worked nights.
Yeah, I remember.
She doesn't work now because she's had some health problems. She just had a double mastectomy.
That's so funny.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. She doing okay?
As soon as she gets the expanders out, she'll go.
Okay.
Sometimes things are horrible.
Yes. Yeah.
She's like, you could definitely tell a man made those.
Right. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but it makes us feel good.
Yeah,
And I'm
cancer-free, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm a grandpa now.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's so awesome. I love it. Go ahead.
7th Street in Jefferson?
Avenue.
7th Avenue.
6th Avenue, Madison.
Okay.
So you know we're like, it's like,
It's right downtown.
yeah, it's right.
It's in the middle of downtown.
Yeah, it's the court building. And they just built it just a few years back.
Because if I was to leave my internship and go, that's like an 11-minute drive. So you're not that far from where I'm located.
It's I like some of the people that they complain, but you guys don't know what a bad job.
Exactly, that's a lot of it, yeah. Because if you have a good job, you know, you don't know what it's like to have a bad